And yes, here we are, and I'm still making duck face here for you all.
I can't tell behind
uh,
the mask, Mark.
you can't tell
No.
behind the mask, no. Yes, folks, once again, it is the spoiler room. Thank you for joining us, venturing down the stairs, pulling up a chair, and grabbing your favorite drink as we talk movie spoilers. It is the Family That Slays Together month. Last week, we looked at the people under the stairs. And this week, we're going something a little bit more recent. I know, don't have a heart attack, folks, but it does have Nick Cage in it. So we're going to look at Mom and Dad from 2017 from director Brian Taylor. And I've got a great crew assembled for me today to talk about this very interesting film uh, that will make you question your parental nature. But first off, he is with us here in the spoiler room, the guy who keeps coming back for more. As always, it is Mr. Ian Simmons. Hello, Ian. How are you?
Doing great. I want to like squeal like a pig while crawling through a car.
Uh-oh.
That's how
Wow.
excited I am.
Don't say squeal like a pig because it makes me think of Deliverance, and that's a whole different.
Oh, it was more of a well. He was
It's-
barking like a dog, and then he was
He
like
was.
squealing as he was getting stabbed in the leg. We'll get to it. We'll get to
We'll
it.
get to it. We'll
I-
get to it.
I was about to say you kind of already worked up to the deliverance because what is it? Mark was referring to as duck lips.
Yes, my time.
It's like we can't see your pretty mouth, boy.
Wow, I don't need to think about Deliverance right now. And now I can't help but think of, oh, Ned, Betty. Anyway, and also we have with us tonight, you heard her voice from the horror retrospective. It is Kara. Hello, Kara. How are you?
Hello, doing all right.
Good to hear. Good to hear. And if folks, yes, I know about the whole mask thing. It's just that my boys are in the room right next door. And since I talk a lot and I'll be spouting, I'm not quite there yet. I decided to help try to keep things safe. So hence the mask. But so tonight, yes, we are talking Mom and Dad 2017. And Kara, would you mind giving the synopsis for Mom and Dad? See, I spared you, Ian.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
My first thoughts was it's a modern day retelling of flesh-eating mothers. There's kind of a purge thing going on. All the parents go psycho and they're trying to kill their kids, and what parent hasn't at some point or another?
Right? Yeah, that's, I've brought you into this world. I could take you out. And they do.
Yeah, I mean, as long as there was none of this weirdness about, I brought you into this world, I'm going to put you back where you came from.
Ooh.
No, this
That'd
isn't
be
men.
Painful.
Yeah, this isn't. That's a completely
Well, I mean, it was
different
painful the
movie.
first time, but I mean, a fully grown kid.
Well,
Yeah, that's a whole nother story. So it's kind of the purge, yeah. What else do we got going on in this film, Kara?
Other than psycho parents, and this is a childless person's perspective, but the whole thing seems like a metaphor that we all feel as we grow older. Like the two parents are disillusioned. Like, I didn't want this to be my life. And you can see that they sacrificed so that they can take care of their families. They thought about someone other than themselves, was my take on it. But it just seemed like this whole metaphor, like you go unappreciated so much. It's like Day of the Parents.
Day of the Parents. Yeah, kind of, yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting film that it's funny because people call it a black comedy. But I kind of found it comedic, but not nearly for black comedy. I mean, I found it quirky. I found it interesting. I did a write up for it. I got a chance to do a review for it, an early screener when it first came out, and back in 2017. Been doing this way too freaking long.
This is modern for me. I don't watch stuff this recent often.
Yeah, and part of the appeal was Nick Cage, obviously, because this came out just after Mandy, I believe it was. But Yeah, it's wild. I didn't quite take it. I mean, I understand it's satirical, but black comedy, I'm not sure. Ian, what are your initial thoughts with Mom and Dad?
Well, a couple of things. When you put out the movie list, it's like a reflex. I automatically sign up for everything unless I happen to know that I'm not going to be available to talk on one of these show nights, because I love doing the show each week. So it came as kind of a shock when I went to put stuff in my calendar. I'm like, oh, Mom and Dad, a movie I did watch back in 2017 and vowed that I would never watch again.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
But I did watch it again for you. So we
Well,
could talk about it here tonight. And I stand by my initial decision.
that touches my heart. It does.
Well, I thought like maybe, it was 5 years ago. Maybe I felt differently about it. And if anything, my resentment towards the movie has grown much stronger. But my fascination with it, it's the context has changed a bit because Ann Winters, who plays Carly, the teenage daughter of Nick Cage and Selma Blair, she is in the TV show The Orville for season 3. Playing a character named Charlie. It's just interesting to see her go from playing a 15-year-old to being someone who's like, I guess in her early 20s, she like the ship's pilot. Yeah.
Wow, I didn't realize.
I really loathe this movie. I'm not convinced that Brian Taylor has ever been around children or has children or knows anything about parenthood. I just think it's like one of my big problems with Alien versus Predator Requiem is there's a scene in a maternity ward where the filmmakers thought, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we had these alien predator hybrids bursting out of a room full of pregnant mothers and have it be all gross? No, it's not cool. It's like morally reprehensible. And I felt that way watching Mom and Dad.
Wow. Is it the patricide?
No, I think part of it is the black comedy tone, because if this had been a straight up horror movie, I think I would have been able to deal with it a bit better. But because I think it is a black comedy, it's just really poorly done and ham-handed. I'm like, there's stuff that, you have to be a really twisted fuck to be like in a birthing room. A mom gives birth to her baby, and we all know as the audience that the mom is going to turn on the infant. Yeah. And then right as that happens, they start playing Roxette's It Must Have Been Love. No. No.
They were trying to go for the tearjerker moment. I'm like, you're not going to manipulate me.
I don't know what that was. Yeah.
It's the juxtaposition of It Must Have Been Love being a love song and the mom who normally should be loving her
now I want
newborn.
to smother you.
Yes, wants to smother.
Right. I mean, that's a funny thing that can occur to a writer. Like, wouldn't it be? It'd be funny if they put that Roxette song in this scene, but to actually commit to it and make that part of your movie, no, it doesn't work.
It kind of reminds me of the music. I watched it casually. I haven't seen it all the way through, but it reminds me of the way the music is used on that show, The Boys, where it kind of references the scene and what's going on at the time.
Yeah, I haven't watched The Boys.
The Boys does it a lot better. I really enjoy The Boys. It's one of my two favorite superhero shows this year. The Boys and Ms. Marvel, two opposite ends of the spectrum. I know.
What do you
family
mean?
show, totally not a family show, but at the same time, two of my favorite shows this year. But yeah, I can see, I guess I've seen a lot of those types of scenes too, to where you have that, and I get he was going for it. It didn't bug me. Maybe I have a dark sense of humor. I don't know.
I have a dark sense of humor too, but I mean, my problem is there's nothing inherently funny about a parent wanting to kill their child, right? It goes against like the deepest, darkest part of human nature, like not only the instinct to survive, but the instinct to reproduce. And beyond the purely scientific thing, there's the issue of love. I understand, the parents and their regrets and all of that stuff. That's something we've seen in, it'd be truly revolutionary to watch a drama about a well-adjusted family who has some kind of an external problem, instead of like every movie now is like, my God, why do we have these kids? And my life was going to be great if we didn't have all these kids. That's every movie. But with this thing, again, turn it into a horror film and actually say something about the idea. Or, it takes a really deft hand to turn a comedy into this. It's kind of like trying to make a comedy about the Holocaust. I mean, I know they did that as a joke in The Producers, but,
Springtime for Hitler.
Like a good idea.
Anyway.
Right.
Springtime for Hitler and Germany.
But even that was a farce, right? They had to go all the way to the other end of the spectrum. There's no middle ground here.
But you bring up a point that, The Producers, it was a farce. It was exaggerated on purpose. They were going that it was Mel Brooks, so he was very open about, the whole thing and intent and everything. Whereas here, I get what you're saying. It shifts from trying to be a serious horror to adding the dark humor, but not adding either enough of it or doing it in a way to where you can really decide whether or not it's both. I get what you're saying on that.
Well, it's also, it very much has the trope of sort of the 28 Days Later, like modern zombie movie. We were talking about Walking Dead a little bit ago. That's fine, except that it's children. And it's not even zombified children. It's parents with the rage virus who are going after the kids. So I don't want to see crazy cool camera moves and blood splattering on the screen thinking, wow, that's so neat. When I realized that, that's a 12-year-old boy who ran to his mom through a school blockade because she was, he thought she was trying to deliver him from, to safety, and he was betrayed in the last moment.
He got keyed.
Right, he got keyed. Yeah. And I'm yelling at this movie to get off my lawn. Someone else talk.
See, I don't know if it's a female thing. Like, it kind of feels like part of the inspiration was drawn from postpartum depression, because I know women get that and they do things to their children they shouldn't. It's kind of like this own temporary insanity that some people experience.
Right, but I mean, Selma Blair's, she had a 15-year-old and a 9-year-old, I think, or an 9, because I think Cage said something like, "You're not going to make it to 10, buddy." Postpartum depression does not last more than a decade. I mean,
no, but I don't know, delayed response or something in mass.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that plays, it's an underlying theme, at least with our two. I do remember, I think I wrote in my review that this is probably one of the most. They put the dysfunctional. This is the most dysfunctional suburban family that you've seen. They embody every trope that's in here. You have the mom who's trying to act and relate to her young daughter by speaking the new lingo, like saying hashtag, and she's Facebooking. You have the daughter who doesn't want anything to do with her clean cut parents because her parents are lame, which is standard teenage trope for 50 years. So that's not going to change. You've got the kid who looks up to his dad because he doesn't know any better. So the 9-year-old, he's still the innocent out of all of them. He's got his own little dark side, but he's the innocent one of them. You got the dad who is, which a lot of parents end up having, though not to this extreme that he does, of the thought of what if you didn't have kids, or what happened, or trying to hold on to your youth. So you have that dynamic between these four, and they're just exaggerated, like Nick Cage being Nick Cage in his cagiest.
He's excellent at being insane.
He is, but I mean, that's why I'm looking forward to seeing The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, because aside from Pig and Mandy, I have not liked a Nicolas Cage performance in probably a decade.
Wow.
Because he just turns on the Nick Cage thing, and it's like the stereotypical like married couple zoning out during sex. That's what I feel when I watch Nick Cage. I'm like, okay, here's where he screams, here's where he stops screaming, here's where
too routine.
Right, too routine. But here's one of my problems with it. There's a great flashback. I think the flashbacks in this movie are the strongest part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a bit where he's having midlife crisis. He sends away for like parts for a pool table. He builds this pool table in the basement, and there's a big argument with his wife over it. And he ends up destroying the pool table with a sledgehammer while screaming. And she just sits there on the stairs, and then she comes down. They have like this nice, peaceful talk. No, no. She would run, get the hell out of the house, find the kids, take them with, because that is not acceptable unless they have a history of that, which they could have gotten into that a bit more. This movie is missing contrast, because as you're saying, Mark, they start off dysfunctional and then they go crazy. There's no contrast. Like, this is the normal loving family. Isn't it sad what happens to them? It's like this was going to happen with or without a rage virus at some stage.
Well, the pulsing made me curious, just my observation, but it makes me curious if he's prone to just bouts of anger like that, because even before he started busting up the pool table, she kind of backtracks and takes back what she was saying. She looks like she's a little bit worried or afraid. And then after he destroys the table, yeah, they have like this weird bonding moment. So I don't know if it's some kind of a trauma bond that they have where they just can flip back and forth between seamlessly, and it's just normal to them.
Right. And I think you could almost make an entire movie about this family dealing with, like they had a lot of these movies back in the 80s, like TV specials, like dealing with dad's alcoholism or whatever. Everyone's on eggshells. But I mean, there's the other flashback where he and the son are like sharing a rocket pops and talking about the car and all this other stuff. And
well, yeah, because after the kid put a bird that he had saved that he thought he could save
in a box inside the car, it died, right?
Yeah.
Then they're talking about the history of that car and his dad and their relationship. It's kind of it's almost an oddly touching scene, but you also get this sense of anger. So I'm like, is this the pulse building up in this family? Because you kind of get the sense that this was a seed that was planted that finally, the signal really went full crazy, or were they just this dysfunctional to begin with all along?
Well, see, and I think that's part of the point of what he's trying to go for is you do have the pulse, but it makes you, I think he was trying to pose the question of just how close some parents are to losing it. All it takes is just that one little extra push.
But that's the thing. That is a very Hollywood kind of idea, because, and Mark, I'm going to assume, I mean, we share this common bond as dads, that you've gotten upset with your boys to the point where they've made you really angry, and to the point of like, oh, I could wring his neck. But there's something about that parental instinct, and it goes haywire in some people, but as a percentage, it's very rare, what makes us all kind of be aghast in horror. We are not, as parents, that close to actually killing our children or harming them.
No, we aren't necessarily, but this family is, and they're, this dysfunctional family is, and I think that's what he was going for, because each one of these characters is really just a representation or trope of stuff that we've seen and of real life families. It's interesting because it takes place in the current age of 2018, but yet a number of these themes, like especially, Nick Cage's dad, Brent, really lamenting about motorboating someone in his car as he does donuts, and the mom still trying to hold on to her youth during aerobics class with the hot aerobics instructor, more or less. A lot of these are themes we'd seen in like the 80s types of films, but not as as comedies, not as black comedies, just as comedies, as or dramedies they would be, as they try to deal with it and learn, their life isn't that bad at all. But we don't quite get that with this at all. You get the parents any parents in this world, but not every kid. They're not killing every kid. They're just killing their own kids.
Mhm.
Yeah, but even that is kind of complicated because it implies that they have no interest in killing their own children or killing other people's children, but they don't have an instinct to protect other people's children.
Right.
So it's
It's a
not
free for all.
Yeah.
but it's not a, but what, and they don't get into the science of whatever the signal is, or if it even is the signal, that could be a red herring because they keep flashing to these TVs that have static, and they're the noisy static TVs, which is like, that is a trope left over from the 80s. Like when you're flipping channels, it doesn't make that sound. Unless you've got the volume cranked all the way up for some reason on something else. But the idea of, if it is a signal, has it been engineered? How does it react? How does it enact with parents to make them only want to kill their own offspring? And if they do kill their own children, do they snap out of it and say, well, I've just killed my own children, but my neighbor is going after his kids. That's terrible. I got to stop that.
Well, no, because you get the one guy walking around with the metal bloody baseball bat, who we assume has taken care of his child. He goes out to get his mail, and
right, but they're not being chased by anybody at that point. They're just standing around the lawn and they see him acting all weird, right?
Right.
I was about to say, like, some of the parents seem to stay all zombified, like their brains are just fried. But what was it? The maid, her name was Sun. Like she just went about business as usual after she killed her daughter. And do you want the lunch?
Yeah. And she just had trouble getting that mopping up that blood off. Yeah, that spot out.
She had a Macbeth moment.
She did have a Macbeth
damn spot. But I mean, that's the subject for a more interesting movie that cares about. I mean, this really is just a MacGuffin inciting incident, right, with this signal. But just maybe ask questions. I thought the cameos were really interesting, like the talking heads on TV. One of them was the actor Bokeem Woodbine. The other one was Grant Morrison, which I had forgotten that he was in this, but he's the guy who's like the Scottish scientist. I don't know if you were familiar with Grant Morrison, Mark or Cara.
Grant Morrison? Not offhand. No.
He's a comics writer. He's up there like in the pantheon with like Neil Gaiman and Alan Moore. He wrote Batman: Arkham Asylum, and he's like a very influential writer from like the 80s to the early 2000s. But yeah, to see him showing up and giving this like really weird rambling dissertation about like the paternal instinct or whatever, like that's on brand.
We got Infobomb in the house, and he says, "Isn't Cage the living definition of dysfunction this side of Charlie Sheen?"
Has Charlie Sheen and Nicolas Cage ever done a movie together?
I don't think so.
I don't think so, actually. Wow, the internet would melt. Throw in Corey Feldman, and the internet would melt.
Oh, God.
Corey Feldman.
I got a mental picture of his lizard face, and
he could have his angels as well. See?
Oh God.
Oh.
Back to this movie.
Women off the street can't carry a tune or play well.
But he was in the Goonies. Sorry.
Yeah, he was. The film is an extreme look at parents with midlife crisis, is what it is. And, that's one of the big things that runs through it is the midlife crisis. Not only our couple, because Selma Blair is hanging with her friend after they got done, and they're talking about the aerobics instructor who's having sex with everybody in the room in the class, just about. And they're having she's regretting the fact that her daughter is younger and prettier as well, and making her what the idea is that they're getting across is at least the adults in this world, they look at their kids, and rather than just looking at their kids, oh, I love my son or I love my child, is, wow, look at what I gave up for them, and they are so much younger. They have their youth, they have their looks. I don't have that anymore. And having that not regret, but
Envy, jealousy.
envy, jealousy, you know, that feeling, and then the signal just amplifies it to where they're like, they want to kill that because it's a painful reminder of what they were and what they're no longer are. And so therefore that's why they want to kill their own offspring, is because of that. At least that's the impression I got from it, is the metaphor for the midlife crisis brought to a bloody head.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I was leaning toward. It's just I was looking more at the being unappreciated and just being walked all over end of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, kids are tough. Raising a kid isn't easy. I'll say it's got its ups and downs.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't a horrible kid, but even I had that horrible catchphrase, whatever.
Yeah, when she said her whatever, it's like, oh yeah, that rings true. I've said that. I said that when I was young. I said that when I was young, and when my kids rarely said it to me, but when they say it, there's just something about the way a teenager will say that can get really under your skin. Or even
for me, it's more like whenever young people say boomer, I'd rather have somebody say whatever to me.
yeah.
Especially because I think, you know, the baby boomers, and I'm like, that's probably what it's a reference to, but I'm like, dude, I'm not that old.
That's what I tell them. That's what I tell them too. I'm like, that's your grandparents. Your grandparents are boomers. We're not boomers. We're Gen Xers.
I know, and okay, Gen Xer doesn't have the same sting to it. It's like, fuck yeah, I'm Gen X.
Yeah.
Eugenics.
Eugenics, no, not
Eugen. Gen X, not Eugen. Wrong. No,
it's a little too close.
That's a little too close. But yeah, it's you know, and so I think that's what it was, that exploration of midlife crisis, and you know, all the parents, though we don't get introduced to too many of them. I mean, we get the boyfriend of Carly.
David, I think.
David, yeah, he comes from a rough his dad is an alcoholic. And his dad comes out of his alcoholic stupor enough to try to go after his son as well. Which again can play to the idea that the adults of parents looking at their kids and seeing what they used to have and holding resentment against them. And in this case, it's just a killer resentment. You know, and I think that's one of the main things going through with this. You know, as far as what the kids do, you know, the kids, I don't know, how'd you feel about the kids with these? Ian, do you feel their caricatures as well? All the kids in here, or are they a little more normal than, say, the parents who really are embodiment of all dysfunction?
I didn't mind the kids. I mean, I think the problem is I think all the performances in the movie are really strong. I just don't agree with the way that the characters were written. I liked, okay, with the exception, I like Nicolas Cage when he's not doing Nicolas Cage. You know, he does have some moments of subtlety. I like Selma Blair a lot, and Winters, as I mentioned. I like the actor who played Damon, the boyfriend. And I think the kids were fine, especially, the way that they were rendered, because they are different types of kids. There's there's elements of surprise to it, like the young kid, Brent, right? We think, oh, he's just like the little 9-year-old that, kind of has a tumultuous relationship with his sister, but parents kind of ignore him. But we find out later what that means for him. Like, he snoops around the house and discovers dad's gun and does this whole like taxi driver thing. But that's the thing is, I don't know if that was meant to be funny. I don't think so. It's just kind of sad and strange with a little bit of a hint of danger to it, because it's clear that the kids everybody in this family is disconnected. You mentioned The Purge earlier. The thing that really works about the first Purge movie is that it's a loving family. It's a loving family that's dealing with an external threat, so they have to come together to figure out the problem. What happens in this movie if you take a family that really already loves each other and wouldn't think about actually, killing each other. Sure, they have problems, they're not perfect, but they're not this antagonistic. Contrast. That's what this movie needs, is contrast, because it's dialed up from 11 at the beginning, and by the end, it's 11.5.
There is a bit of a lack of contrast with it. I will fully admit that. With it, because of... Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say I don't know. Like the lack of contrast didn't bother me. I like how insane this is, and it just keeps getting worse.
I agree, it gets worse, but that's the thing. Is like I don't know what or who or how I'm supposed to care about anything that happens in this movie. Is it supposed to be an exploitation picture? Is it supposed to actually have a message about parenthood? I just think it like tries to do all these different things, and in the end, it doesn't really do any of them particularly well, which is kind of disappointing, because I can imagine this working with a few key tweaks.
I mean, you can kind of look at it as a midlife slasher. I mean, they're all basically throwaway characters. We're not invested in any of them. We're just waiting for them to die.
Sort of, but that's the thing. I think there needs to be a higher body count in that case. I mean, because at the end of it, it just ends up being, this pseudo Home Alone type of thing, in the house. It was a nice touch when the grandparents showed up, and one of them is Lance Henriksen, and he never got out of Vietnam in his head. So that was kind of fun.
I like when Lance showed up, Lance Henriksen, and then it was those parents wanting to take care of their kids, which, at least threw a little bit of a twist to it, in that it's not just adults to their young kids. It's just any parent-child pairing, regardless of age in this. When Lance and his, when those two show up, when the grandma and grandpa show up, then they're chasing the adults around like they were chasing their kids around. And I don't know. I found that entertaining. Lance Henriksen going after Nick Cage, who's going after his son, I thought was, an interesting dynamic. And it was something that when the grandparents show up, because up until then we had only seen parents with their young kids. So, the fact that they're showing that the grandparents could also get violent towards their adult kids, I think added at least another level to where there's more than just that look, looking at, and you can still play at the disappointment. How many grandparents or family gatherings? I know, okay, maybe just mine, but family gatherings to where, there were always discussions between father and son, grandpa and father or whatnot, about where they're at in their life. And we've heard other stories too, and we've seen it portrayed in Hollywood as well, where the grandpa prods the dad, oh, I see you bought that car,
right. And again, I'd like to see the positive version of that conversation, because 99% of the portrayals, like when there's a family dinner scene, when the grandparents come over, it's going to be conflict, because, Junior's a disappointment. Like, I'm going to break my jaw if I yawn any harder.
I don't know. I kind of like the idea of comeuppance, kind of like, well, you can't just have your cake and eat it too. Here's some medicine.
Yeah. There is some of that the parents that we saw, Brent and Kendall end up getting their comeuppance by having the grandparents show up and go after them, whereas they've been chasing their kids the whole time. So there is that, in a wonderful scene of chase where they're chasing the kid into this Firebird, which the Firebird was definitely the midlife crisis representation. Always get that big car when you're that fast speed car. I haven't gotten mine yet. I'm pretty much at midlife, and I haven't bought my fancy car yet. So
you keep buying vinyl.
I keep buying vinyl. See the physical media. That's my midlife crisis. I just can't stop buying physical media.
Mark, your midlife crisis car is going to be a vintage vinyl pressing of the Christine score.
Ooh,
Probably.
Yeah,
that's sexy. Actually, I found the Showa era Godzilla Waxworks release is 30% off, and it's still over $300.
Wow.
But it's 18 records.
Oh,
So
well,
yeah.
that's
I know,
tough.
I know, right? See, there's my midlife crisis. It's not a Firebird in the garage. It's this record collection of Godzilla music.
But if you need to have that conversation with the missus, Mark, I will happily say $300 is much cheaper than buying a Firebird.
That's true. That is. Or, or dealing with murder. But my
no,
kids are,
don't put that in the conversation.
don't put that in the conversation.
Yeah.
My kids are older now, though. They'd fight back too hard. So the kids fun. That's what I liked. That's one of my scenes I really enjoy in here, though, is when the kid. Again, I think they are trying to play a dark humor, and I get what you're saying, Ian, that it could have been done better. But at the same time, an interesting statement of the kid having the gun, and he takes shots actually at mom, who's trying to stab through the door, which mad props to him for defending himself.
Mm-hmm.
There is this beat that I actually kind of liked between Selma and Nick, to where he goes, I don't understand how he got the gun. It was locked in a safe. She goes, what did you make the combination?
Yeah. His birthday. Yeah.
His birthday. Making a statement of how parents may not misjudge, but underestimate their children in many ways. Which is what they were kind of stating there with that, in that you hear so many parents when you have major accidents or something, especially like with guns or whatnot. Well, it was locked in a case. Really, how well was it actually locked in the case? So
yeah, I mean, it was a nice exchange, but again, I went back to, really, you kept the gun. It was in a locked case, but it was right underneath your bed. Not even no, not This is
for those
PSA.
late nights when you need to unlock it and go and sit in the bathroom commode and just ponder things.
Yeah.
Yes. No, but this goes back to like 1980s PSA stuff. We kept the gun on, and Nicolas Cage, his character would have been old enough to have seen all of those TV shows and movies and know that if he's especially if he's going to buy a gun that he's going to keep secret from his wife, he can't just put it underneath the bed, because I'm sure at some point she's going to lift up the covers or drop something under the bed. Oh, what's in this box?
Well, she does. They do have a house caretaker because it is suburbia. So this is an entitled.
So she drops something under the bed.
Family,
she rings for the Chinese housekeeper to get it for her.
Right. Well, yeah.
Oh,
well,
okay. Thanks for clearing that up.
Yeah. Well, well, that's the thing, is this is an entitled family. They have their, they have their housekeeper, and her daughter helps out, and the mom, Kendall, can't even keep track of what nationality she called her Korean, and she's like, Chinese, not Korean.
No, that's not what happened. There was the remark that
the grandpa
made a reference, to his grandpa was in Vietnam and never
that's
quite
right.
got over
Vietnam.
it.
Sorry. Charlie.
Called everyone Charlie, and then she said, "Oh, I'm sorry." Now the problem is that was a perfectly acceptable thing for her to say to the housekeeper, because regardless of whether or not she was, Korean or Chinese or Vietnamese, it was still kind of a racially insensitive remark, right?
Right. Yeah.
It didn't have to be like, oh, you must think I'm Vietnamese. It was like, no, you just made a slur against Asian people in general. Right. So again, tweaks to the script.
But I mean, I got what they're going for. It ate for an exchange, and the housekeeper definitely is very bold to these suburbanites, the way she talks to them, which
I like that. She has brass. She doesn't just cower.
Yeah.
I mean, it's again.
Well, let's
a proud history of the sassy housekeeper that goes back decades.
It is, but we're talking about how we've seen these elements in the past and retro. Let's not forget how this film specifically opens. Not with the mom leaving the baby in the car and the train hitting. Just after, the way the credits play out, he's going for a retro feel for this film. We get the 70s montage opening that we get with some horror films, which I always got a kick out of 70s horror film, and I brought it up before to where it's like a horror film, but you got like this melodic hippie ass music, pardon my French, but you know what I mean, this hippie light airy music, and you're like, wait, this is a movie about parents killing their kids, and then they do the little montage.
I think it was about the whole juxtaposition, kind of like the whole, what was it, the Roxette scene with the infant, but
right.
Same thing. I loved that intro, and I have no idea who that Joan Baez sounding woman was, but I like how it paired together.
Yeah, it paired together well, but it was definitely he was trying to set it up for, kind of an expectation, I think, if you notice, of possibly why some of these elements are the way they are, is that he was trying to go maybe for an older film, but not set it in the past, but yet at the same time,
kind of like a modernized Stepford Wives or something.
kind of like that. I don't know. I like this. I like the stylish opening. I guess for me, that's what kind of set it up, is that you're going to get a little bit of this older, darker film, and some of those from the 70s, good or bad. I'm not saying it's good, not saying bad, but we're similar to this as well, to where you had a lot of stuff and horrific things happening, whether or not they were executed extraordinarily well, that depends, I guess, on what the way you look at it, or the film, which film you're talking about. But I think in this case, some of the tropes and things that we see are because he is trying to set it up with that retro feel of that opening, that it's more than just a stylized opening. For me, anyway, that's the way it came across. But I don't know. I was trying to see what song that was. But yeah, I mean, you can tell I enjoyed this film. I don't know why I enjoy this film, even though being a parent, it disturbs me. Don't get me wrong. Some shit.
Not giving me ideas, is it, Mark?
No, not giving me ideas. I like odd films like this, and I get what you're saying, though, that the films, it could be tweaked to possibly have a more clear message with it, and I can totally see that. But I guess for me, I took it as it's presenting a lot of different ideas in here. It does end a little weird, though. It doesn't give you. I forgot the weird ending with this film, where it just kind of ends to where the kids have incapacitated the parents, thanks to the grandparents showing up in this wonderful action sequence where Lance Hendrickson, shitty dummy, takes a header through the through the Firebird onto the hood, and they manage to tie up mom and dad. And mom and dad are like, "Oh, we're better now. We're better. We love you guys, but sometimes." And then they start getting violent again, and that's how they end. And I think that's what he's going with in this film, is just that exploration of the possible turmoil inside many parents when they look at their kids, and what if those parents acted on that regret, to an extreme measure. But still, I think that's what he's going for. Maybe not have executed it the best, but for me, that's the way it came across. But
I mean, it's an idea, but there's not really a follow through, and there's not really a commentary. And that's why I wasn't surprised by the ending, because I'm like, it's just this slam stop. He gets out of it by saying, "Well, what do you think it means, man?" It just saves him the hard work of trying to come up with an ending, a resolution. What happens after that scene? What happens to society? How long does this go on? Does it ever stop? Who engineered it? How they engineer it so, precisely. I mean, on one end, you could say, yeah, it's a crazy midnight, exploitation film. And if you want to view it that way, that's fine. But I don't think it succeeds on any level that it's trying to attempt. So I'm just left wondering, what does it all mean? The answer is not much.
Well, you're supposed to put together what it means. What does it mean to you, Ian?
No, that's not. I didn't write the movie. I didn't get paid to write the movie. Someone else did. And they turned in an incomplete.
I don't know. I kind of like things where they don't spoon feed you everything or the plot. They leave it open to where you can come up with your own ideas, opinions, and then you can always just come back to it. Well, what about this? What about that? Which I guess maybe it's lazy, but you entertain yourself more that way, I think.
Well, sure, but I mean, there's got to be a line, right? I mean, you can't just have a story where like, well, I was driving down the street and all of a sudden I started having to paddle really, really quickly. What? What does paddling have to do with driving down the street? Exactly. That's my problem with this movie. It's got these ideas that don't really go anywhere. They smash right into each other, and you're supposed to say, well, what do you think it means? I'm like, again, that's not my responsibility. This is bad storytelling. It's, got a lot of entertaining stuff in it, but it's just a movie that is full of stuff and not really ideas.
Yeah,
and people can enjoy what they want. I enjoy plenty of stupid things, but
I totally get what you're saying with it. I guess for me, I like the ideas that are presented in here. And maybe not necessarily, he going for a deep message or presenting these ideas, and you draw from your own, saying, "Hey, parents, look at yourself once in a while."
Then you wonder why your kids are the way they are.
Right. And maybe it's just me, because I look at this, I'm like, I have nothing to learn from any of these parents. I don't know any parents who even come close to this. So what am I supposed to get out of this? I want to turn it off, but I didn't twice.
Well, I thank you. I thank you for that.
I mean, I like how the parents are an exaggeration, and I forget the mom, but I like how she refers to her own daughter as that bitch.
See, and that's the thing is I'm not friends with them, but I have met parents that are similar to our Kendall and Brent in how they look at their kids as being the beasts of burden that they are. I love my kids, but that bitch or whatnot. I've run across parents like that. Not often, but I have.
Well, you kind of reminded me of something. Is I don't know if it's just the fact that they became parents too young, or if they became parents before they were ready, so that's why they feel like they're held back. Like, I wasn't done living for myself, and now I have to change things around because I have to make adjustments for this other person that I'm responsible for now.
Well, and that's the impression I get, is that I have a feeling at least Carly was a surprise to them. I don't think that she was a daughter that they had initially planned. Though they don't address it. Again, that can fall into the line of what Ian is saying, maybe, tweak the script a bit. But the impression I get is that they weren't necessarily planning on Carly, because this is both the wild couple. They used to be Brent. It used to be Kendall. That conversation that they have during the pool table, that they were the popular couple at one point. They were the wild ones at one point, and they got that resentment with the family life that they have. The kids, he goes to work and watches porn apparently at work, which was just
but the more that you talk about this, Mark, the angrier I get, because I'm just realizing none of this lines up. Nicolas Cage and Selma Blair are probably supposed to be in their 40s, I would guess. They've got a 15-year-old daughter, which is fine. I had kids kind of late. But let's just walk this back. 2017, let's say they had, the kids 15 years ago, let's say they're 40 or 45, then he would have been like 30 or 25 maybe when they
Mhm.
had the kids. So when he was a crazy teenager, that still places him in like the what, late 80s,
Mid
maybe
80s, yeah.
mid 80s.
Yeah. Mid late 80s.
Late 80s
Late
possibly.
80s.
That whole thing with the Thunderbird and the parking lot scene, that was all like with this weird like 1970s aesthetic that was going on. I
Mhm.
don't know what was. I feel like everybody got mixed up. Maybe this screenwriter thought that everything before like 1990 was essentially 1970, but yeah, sloppy.
I don't know. I was too busy laughing at that scene. It was ridiculous.
He did the person they got to play young Nick Cage. The one thing I appreciated was they gave him the mustache from Raising Arizona, which was kind of fun.
Yeah, they did do that. They did do that. Oh, we got some comments here from Infobomb. He said, perhaps Amber Heard ought to be doing a comeback film with Cage. She might relish being in a bed that was defecated in.
She would ruin his career.
Yeah, she would ruin his career. She kills careers. Any particular 70s horror films that come to mind? Just watch the opening to Day of the Woman. And it's airy, light. You've got her with her sunglasses on. She's driving out into the country. It's like, oh, la, 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 la. And then it crushes your entire soul and makes you want to go out and just, renounce everything.
Well, that's where my Day of the Parents reference came from.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I caught that. Yeah.
Well, there's a difference between a film that starts off, kind of sunny and descends into madness, and this movie where you've got this faux. It wasn't like a movie opening from the 70s. It was like a 1970s TV show. Where you've got, as they're introducing the actors, you see the actor from scenes that are going to come up in the film. So it's very much like a sitcom or like a Charlie's Angels style thing, which is an aesthetic, but it really has nothing to do with the rest of the movie. And I know you guys were appreciative of it, but all I saw was, this is 2017. They're going for like the midnight audience crowd and everything. So, retro, man, let's put this stuff in here, even if it doesn't make any thematic sense.
Well, I mean, it's part of the theme. You're going with that period of time, though, making it feel like it's supposed to be the happy family, which it's not a happy family. So maybe
what is that?
I've never met a family that actually is happy. I've always run across people. There's some level of dysfunction. I mean, if you guys come off as some Joan Crawford fake happiness, I'm like, you worry me.
Well, I mean, I don't think anyone's talking about fake happiness. I'm talking about, every family has their own dynamic and their own, problems. But there is a middle ground between psychopathic killers who are at each other's throats and the cleavers. It's a gradient, right? I mean, I'm sorry you've never met a happy family. I'm not calling that into the question, but Jesus Christ.
Well, I just mean you can run across people that seem well adjusted, but there's always just some, even if it's small, there's some tiny level of dysfunction. I mean, not that I'm trying to talk trash about anybody.
No, you're absolutely right. And like I said, I think, and we'll wrap it up here soon. I think I get where Ian's coming from with this, in that the family we're introduced to, we're given maybe a little glimpse of, like,
not enough development.
Right. Not enough development that this is a happy family. This is a screwed up family to begin with. They get put into a screwed up situation and things just get a little bit more screwed up. But, while they're extreme, you weren't that far away, a hop, skip, and a jump away from this being, regardless of whether or not the pulse was there. And like I said, again, maybe that's what I thought he maybe was going for, is that you wouldn't necessarily need the pulse. It is there. You're that close. So, maybe reevaluate how you're looking at things is what I kind of take away from it. But at the same time, he doesn't really lay that out for you. That's just what I got from the film. So, He just presents the ideas and the situations.
It would take a really deft hand to make work what I'm about to suggest, but at the end of this, what if you find out, people like, well, it was the pulse that drove everyone insane. And the scientist who engineered it or whatever said, yeah, the pulse didn't actually do anything. It was all mass hysteria.
That would
It was the cell phone towers.
it was the cell phone.
It was the
towers.
5G.
The 5G, though this was 2017, so it was the 4G. It was the 4G.
No, that the 5G was around. They just didn't tell anybody for a couple of years.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So I was thinking those Motorola flip phones.
The flip phones. I still got a flip phone. I still got a Motorola flip phone. I use that because it has the world's most annoying ringtone for your morning alarm. So I open it. I have it there on purpose because subconsciously it keeps me from having it go off because it's like the worst. It is the worst ringtone. Yeah, screw it. Just one moment. Here.
Oh, it's gonna be good.
Okay. It's close because I've been quarantined down in my studio, so my bed's like right there. Okay, let me pull this up quick. But I get what you're saying. I mean, I like this movie, but I like quirky, dark films. But you do make some valid points there, Ian. Kara, what do you think about this film? Your final thought?
I had fun with it. I wasn't really too analytical with it. I just enjoyed it for what it was. I went for the ride, and I had fun watching it.
Yeah, the same here. And Ian, you've stated your case for the film. I appreciate you sitting through it again. But any final thought or word for?
No. I think I've gone over my points. I want to hear this ringtone.
All right, yeah, hold on. Okay, here it comes. So prepare yourselves, folks. Prepare yourselves, because I find this to be. I should pull it off. See this Motorola phone? I've had this for 20 years.
Whoa!
Literally, it was my old work phone. So yes, I've had it. I got to get the ringtone off of here because this thing, it's still charging.
Yeah.
But anyway, so okay.
Jeez.
Here
I wouldn't be surprised if you have the chocolate and the razor hanging around somewhere.
Oh man.
I don't have a razor. No. All right, here it comes. Prepare yourself. It starts off nice, but you'll see why I handled this like a grenade in the morning.
It sounds like a grocery store song.
That is why when this does go off, it's like a grenade, and I'm scrambling for it, knocking stuff off, whatever, to trying to stop it before it gets to the because
that's the best part.
Yeah.
I felt like Tom Atkins at the very end of Halloween 3, just screaming into the phone, "Make it stop! You got to turn it off!"
That is my ringtone, and that's why I wake up before my alarm almost every morning. Subconsciously, I don't want that going off. Let me tell you, by the way,
I can see how you would learn to hate that if you hear it every morning.
I do love my wife because one time I left for work before I turned the alarm off because I got up way before the alarm, so I just decided to go into work early. And I forgot to turn said alarm off. And so my wife got the full tune while she tried to scramble for my phone.
Well, you're lucky she didn't take a sledgehammer to it.
Yeah, no, a meat tenderizer.
Oh, meat tender. Yeah, there you go.
Like in the film. So Infobomb mentions that we all know that when it comes to finding the best scripts, Cage has quite the record as of late. He actually addresses that in The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. So you should definitely, it's great little reference to
I'd say
his
as long as he
career.
doesn't get to the Eric Roberts level, where back then it was a cool movie to watch. Now, if you know he's in it, it's like pass. It's a stinker.
Well, yeah, they did an interview with him. There's a reason why he does all those films. Travel. He
Yeah.
gets paid. He gets paid to travel, so he takes his family occasionally, and he'll go out and do a shoot to where it's like a day. He's on the phone on the desk, or on the phone on the bridge of a ship, but he's out there for like a week. He gets paid. It's part of his contract thing. So
I was thinking base level, like he needed the check that bad.
no, he just uses it to travel. He likes to travel, and so yeah, he gets to travel, gets paid, gets like a day or two work, and you know.
I think it was saying he goes with his wife or something like that.
Yeah,
Like a lot of times he'll get like the double accommodation, so it's like little mini vacations all the time.
Yeah, that's why he does some of this stuff.
But yeah, I agree. There are certain actors when you see they're in the movie, you're like, no.
See, that's the weird thing. Like, I think Danny Trejo's the only one that can actually walk that line.
Yeah, it was funny. I was gonna say, he used to be a market, like I gotta see it. Danny Trejo's, and I gotta see it now. I'm like, it's 50-50.
Yeah, but it's funny. Like you know it's a stinker, but you still watch it because he was like this cool guy back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll still watch. The issue with that type of stuff is similar to, say, the film that we talked today, although they didn't have him in the marquee, but some films will have the cameo, like say Lance Hendrickson shows up in the last 5 minutes of the film. They'll have his name like at the top of the video box. And you're like, when's he showing up? Danny Trejo, I love Danny. I'll watch him anything, but it gets disappointing when his name is on the box and he's in there all of 4 minutes. And you're like, oh man, I wanted more Danny. I love Danny, regardless of what role he's in, either Machete or whatever. But at the same time, it's disappointing when you get that and you're just like, oh, that's it? That's all the Danny I get? What?
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for the day where they get like Danny Trejo. They put him like on the marquee, like you're saying, of this independent film. And he's not even really in the movie. It's just the characters in the movie walk by a theater that's showing Machete.
I was going to say I've never seen it. I just like the title. I have to watch it someday. But he did a movie called Lava Zombies.
Yes, he did. He did Lava Zombies.
Is it like actually like lava zombies?
Yeah.
Like they're on fire and like they eat people and set them on, they melt them and stuff?
It's been a while since I've watched it, but I do believe so. There's fire involved in.
Yeah, that's usually how I pick my movies. Like, do they have a wacky title? Do I just think it's funny, or do I like the box art?
Like Lava Lantula and Lava Lantula 2.
What was the other one? Big Ass Spider. I thought that one was
funny. Big Ass Spider was great. Yeah. But we digress. Thank you for our watchers, our viewers. Infobomb says that Lance Hendrickson is his go-to guy, and there's not a bad go-to guy for that. And then he offers up an epic film that would have Cage, Roberts, Trejo, and Hendrickson. I don't think the screen could handle that much awesomeness at one time.
Well, you got to add Feldman, and who else were we talking about?
Feldman and Sheen. And Sheen. There you go.
It's going to be a return of pass out the barf bags at the movie theater.
Yeah, but then I can have my tiger's blood. There was an ice cream shop, a soda shop, an old-fashioned soda shop / ice cream shop where they used to make they had the different flavored vanillas, and you can make like different shakes and that. And when that one interview came out, they literally did make one that was called Tiger's Blood. It was really good, actually.
Blue coconut.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There was coconut in there, and I forgot cherry and something else. I forgot what it was, but it was really good. I missed that place, but yeah.
You're gonna make me snack tonight, aren't you, Mark?
I know I am. I am gonna make you snack and make you forget the film that you hated, that you watched twice, just for the show, which we do appreciate, Ian. So thank you all to our viewers. Thank you all to our listeners. And next week we got another parental. It'll be a horror of 1988 film. It'll be our Rabid Grannies episode. So you'll want to stay tuned for that one. And now, as always, this is where I give my crew the license to shill. So Kara, please shill away.
I don't have anything new coming up until October. I'm hoping to do Vlogoween again this year, but in the meantime, there's tons of old video reviews and wacky movies, like the crazy stuff I like to watch. That would be on Horror Retrospective at YouTube.
Nice. Yes, check out all the great stuff there. Lots of fun stuff. And Mr. Ian Simmons, please shill away.
Well, I'm Ian Simmons. I run Kicking the Seat, which you can find at kickseat.com, and also the Kicking the Seat YouTube channel. Tomorrow night, or whenever it'll be in the past, probably after this goes up, but doing a live stream about the 1997 movie Spawn, which I just finished watching this evening, and wow, is it different than I remember. But Mark, thanks to you, I have a new perspective on Spawn.
Oh, great. Now he's blaming me for something else. The fact that he had to watch Mom and Dad again.
You have to double feature it with Barbed Wire. Otherwise, you're not doing it right.
There you go.
You know what?
Yes.
I have never seen Barbed Wire. I know. I got to fix that.
It's Casablanca, man.
I know. It's Casablanca with Pam Anderson. I've heard that. And that's part of the reason I've stayed away. Like, I don't know if I can't quite imagine that, but yeah. So yeah, we're going to talk about Spawn, and we'll see what happens.
Picture
there.
Humphrey Bogart, but with a larger chest and in tight leather pants.
I just did picture it, and now I don't like you anymore. We're not friends.
So where's your stuff again, Ian?
Cancelled.com. No, it's kickseat.com. And also on YouTube, Kicking the Seat.
There you go. And they're looking at Spawn. How did I give you a different perspective on Spawn?
Are you joining us for the conversation tomorrow?
I may actually be, yes.
Okay. Well, I'll spoil it for you just in case you can't make it. But it reminded me of a Canon film.
Oh, yeah.
I was watching it. I'm like, it completely falls apart at the end with the bad CGI. But like the whole like military setup and the secret rockets and all this stuff. I'm like, this is a 1997 Canon movie, and I'm totally about it.
Awesome. Well, that should be a great discussion. Thank you all, as always. I appreciate every single one of you and your support. And now we'll just say a good night, everyone.
Good night.